Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text FORECAST to 603-356-2137.
Hello, listeners. Nick here with your forecast for the weekend of November 29th, 2025. Friday. In the clouds with snow showers. Additional snow accumulations of 2 to 4 inches. Snow could fall heavily at times. High, steady in the upper single digits, falling to around 5 above in the afternoon. Wind west, shifting northwest at 35 to 50 miles per hour early, 40 to 55 miles per hour midday, and 50 to 70 miles per hour with gusts up to 75 miles per hour late. Wind chill 15 below to 25 below, falling to 20 below to 30 below. Friday night. In the clouds with snow showers. Additional snow accumulations of 1 to 3 inches. Low, lower single digits below. Interesting way to say that. Wind northwest at 50 to 70 miles per hour with gusts up to 80 miles per hour, increasing to 60 to 80 miles per hour with gusts up to 90 miles per hour by midnight. Wind chill falling to 35 below to 45 below. Saturday. In the clouds with morning snow showers likely, becoming a slight chance of snow showers by the afternoon. Additional snow accumulations of a trace to 2 inches. High, steady around 0, then rising to around 5 above late in the afternoon. Wind northwest at 65 to 85 miles per hour with gusts up to 95 miles per hour early, 50 to 70 miles per hour with gusts up to 80 miles per hour midday, and 45 to 60 miles per hour with gusts up to 70 miles per hour later. Wind chill 30 below to 40 below, rising to 20 below to 30 below. So looking very wintry this weekend. Hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Happy hiking, stay safe, and crush some peaks.
Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, occasionally including the counties of Belknap, something like that, and Coos Stomp.
Can I talk?
I think you're good.
I can't see anybody.
Right,
Is anybody
right.
out there? Be able to see anybody.
See a little bit.
I was told by my 9th grade performing arts teacher that I was supposed to visualize the audience in their underwear and I wouldn't get nervous, but I can't see anybody. Actually, I can kind of see you guys, and when I visualize that, it looks more like a horror movie, so I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to do the intro now here, and then we'll get the crew up here. So welcome to the Full Conditions Winter Kickoff with the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast crew. We're going to be joined by Ty Gagne and special guest Joe Lentini and Paul Cormier of Mountain Rescue Service. This week we're enjoying the screening of the film 109 Below, and then we're going to start off with discussing the film, and the crew, Ty, Joe, and Paul, will share some stories and experiences of their involvement in search and rescue. And then we're also excited. We got our co-host Stomp over here. He's coming out of retirement. So Stomp, woohoo! And I want Stomp to stand up for a minute because he's lost 30 pounds. He can now fit into his 130-liter backpack, which is great.
That's true. Carry him right uphill.
Right, and Nick is over here. He's been baby duty, so he just had a newborn. So
Massachusetts.
He broke free. So thank you, Miss Ashley, for letting him come.
Yes, thank you. My amazing wife.
Awesome. So, and then later we're going to be joined by some of our other co-hosts. Andy from the Cog's going to be. Andy rescued like 500 people off of Mount Washington a couple of weeks ago. So he's going to come and talk about that day, and we'll have some other stuff. Then we got Dave Bleeps in the Woods. I don't know if there's kids here, so he's going to be here. He's always good for a joke. And Dave, I just want you to know that I zipped my fly up this time. So
I had him checked before he came on.
All right, thank you very much. And then so we got Andy. We're going to be joined by Reklis Steve to give us an update on Reklis Brewing. We got Forrest Chess here, who's taken over the Mountain Wanderer bookstore, and we've got Burgeon. Nick's going to come up and talk to us a little bit. We got dad jokes, and we've got all kinds of other surprises. So I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started.
What's happening?
Ready?
Let's get started.
There we go. Let's hear it.
All right, I was just before.
Gotta replace that.
Yeah, before we get started, I just was given a request to give an announcement. There's a Subaru with the lights on outside. We don't have the license plate number, but if you have a Subaru, please head out back and figure it out. That's the best way to clear the crowd out, right?
Yeah. It's better than yelling fire.
Yes, yeah. So anyway, and then we wanted to, I can't see anybody, but I did want to give a shout out. I was told by a little secret friend of mine told me that there's people that came from far away. So I don't care if you're from New England, you're expected to be here. But I think that there's somebody from Iowa and there's somebody from Washington. Can you guys stand up? Let's embarrass you. All right, where are you? Do you have a Subaru?
Oh, darn.
All right. Well, thank you for coming from so far away. That's amazing. So appreciate it. Come find us afterwards. I want to know what the background is for how did you end up here. So that's good stuff. And then what else do we have, Nick, here? Sponsors. Oh, we're doing sponsors.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Stomp's keeping me on speed here. So we want to thank the sponsors here. So shout out to Bethlehem Colonial Theater. Shout out to Mountain Wanderer. Shout out to Burgeon Outdoors. So support for today's show comes from Burgeon Outdoor, performance apparel handmade right here in New Hampshire by people who live for the White Mountains. Burgeon is proud to sponsor the Full Conditions Winter Kickoff, supporting mountain safety and search and rescue from base layers to outerwear. Every stitch is tested in the toughest terrain, so gear up for good and check out, Nick will talk a little bit more about them in a little while. So... shout out to Reklis. So Phil, you're the man. You put this together. This is great.
Yeah, awesome job, Phil.
Yeah, and then also thank you to Reklis Steve. He's going to come up here, and then Ian and Marlena. You guys are awesome, and your whole crew is awesome. So thank you. And as a reminder, this is a benefit for the New Hampshire Outdoor Council. So I know you guys all have a lot of money. You're driving brand new Subarus. So it's tax season. If you need to get a nice write-off in your tax situation, then just donate to the New Hampshire Outdoor Council, and all those funds will go to support search and rescue. Okay, and then...
Slasher's hiking topic of the week.
Okay. All right, so we are going to introduce here, we're going to have Ty, Joe, and Paul come on. So you guys can come on over. And as you're making your way, the one other plug I wanted to give a heads up on is trail maintenance and trail volunteering opportunities. We all love to complain about blowdowns. So if you want to clear those blowdowns, you've got volunteer opportunities. Just search trail maintenance volunteer, get involved, or volunteer, and then you'll find information on AMC or the Forest Service websites. And then you can also message Stomp on the Instagram. He'll tell you how to get hooked up. So, all right, you guys all settled? You got your microphones?
You guys ready?
Joe, you know how to work a microphone, right? You know, you got to put it in, you got to talk, put it in front of you.
I've got it.
There you go. You got it now.
They're already on. You guys should be good.
Excellent. All right, so we just saw the film, 109 Below. So it was. I've watched it a couple of times already. So just quick introductions here. So you already introduced yourself. So Paul Cormier, you're current president of Mountain Rescue Service. Is that right?
That's correct.
Excellent. And then you've got who's got more climbing experience? How many years? Which one?
I think I'm at 57 since 1969.
All right, I can't do that math, so I'm going to say you guys are tied.
Neither can I. We're within a year.
Yeah, so pretty close. And then Ty Gagne. So Ty is the author of Where You'll Find Me, the story of Kate Matrasova. He's also the author of The Last Traverse, and then the most recent book is The Lions of Winter. And then you're probably working on some other big project, but you'll let us know when we need to know, right? Awesome. So I think, Joe, I'm just going to start off with a question. Ty kind of fed me this, but a little birdie told me that you were originally hesitant to engage with Ty to talk about the idea for Lions of Winter, but you eventually came around. So can you share with the listeners what was the background there? And listen, I'm friends with a lot of FBI and Secret Service guys, and they don't talk business at all, so I get it. And there's always hesitation, but I wanted to just get maybe give us a rundown on what was your hesitation and what made you come around?
Well, when the first book came out, I didn't know Ty at all. And, it was like, who is this person writing this book about somebody who isn't alive? So how do we know? And so I just declined to talk to him. And that went on.
That was the first book.
To the second book also.
Yeah, it did. But you let me use a photo for the second book.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
For free. And then I was talking to one of the Dow sisters, one of Albert's sisters, Carol, and we were talking about something else having to do with the movie 109 Below. And she said to me when we were done, and I was really saddened by the fact you wouldn't work with Ty over his book. And I was like, huh. And so I called a bunch of people I know who had worked with Ty, and everybody told me such great things about him and how serious he was and how much he cared about this. Again, remember I said earlier that tan, fit, and hideously self-confident, okay? So I called him up and said, look, I'm an asshole, and I'll do whatever. And I will do anything for him because his books are so good, so accurate. My wife's sitting over there, Ruth. She said of The Last Traverse that it was the first. We've been together for 40 years. She's a saint, obviously, and I go out on these rescues in the middle of the night. She knows it's dangerous, and I don't hide things from her. I tell her what's gone on. She said after she read that book, she said it was the first time in all of our years that she understood what we go through out there. I was never able to explain it, but he was. So I was an asshole, so what?
Well, we're glad that you finally opened up. Good job. Was he the most difficult person you had to chase down?
I love Joe. I remember going to his house and just feeling really a little bit intimidated by the fact that I had been trying to work with him for 2 other projects, and to finally be able to sit with him. And I just want to say, I had been reading about Paul and Joe in my early 20s and the work that they were doing and how much respect I had for them. And so when he declined to work with me, I think my wife would tell you, I was really, really disappointed of not being able to get to him, to sit down with him, to have him share his experiences and his knowledge for everybody. And now, we sat down for that first espresso. He makes a crusher espresso. And now we talk all the time. And I'm so grateful for that, because I have just had so much respect for this team for most of my life. And to be able to now know them and work with them. And I will say, both Paul and Joe, I'll be vague, but they are in the next story, going back a few years. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're excited.
Yeah, for sure.
One thing I think, Joe, you can give your perspective, and then we can get everyone else's perspective. But in the early 80s, late 70s, there's a lot going on, from a climbing perspective, and then also from a hiking perspective. So one of the rescues, I'm a history nerd, and the Michael Miller rescue, or search, which was unsuccessful and he's never been found, that happened in 1983. There was I think 2 deaths in Huntington in 1979. I've talked to Doug Teschner in the past about an incident that he dealt with in 1982. So there was a lot going on in that early 80s period. Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of mountain rescue and just search and rescue overall from the late 70s to the mid 80s? And I understand that one of the big things was they gave workers compensation, or they gave some compensation to the rescues, but what else evolved as far as the volunteer rescue teams from the late 70s to the mid 80s?
A lot of it had to do with the fact of we had new people coming in. The organization, Mountain Rescue Service, was founded because there were 2 climbers killed on Cannon Cliff in 1972. And our illustrious governor, Meldrum Thompson, decided that we would just simply close all cliffs in New Hampshire to climbing. That's Cannon, Whitehorse, Cathedral.
Sounds realistic.
Everything. So Mountain Rescue Service was formed. And then originally it was run by a bunch of people from the AMC out of Boston. And then slowly it started to morph over towards climbers. And eventually, in the early mid-70s, climbers took over. Rick Wilcox being one of the leaders, Paul Ross, the Brit, Bill Otten, the Brit. And we just started to evolve and learn and train as a group. And that's what really made the difference. All of a sudden, as opposed to being individuals, we started to work as a team. But also, I have to say, one of the reasons we saw so many incidents in those days, winters were colder back then. I hate to see it, but our climate is changing. There was a group of us that we referred to as the Sunday Night Club, because we had 4 Sundays in a row where it was 30 below or colder at night, and we had people that had just collapsed out in the backcountry. So it's all of those things put together, and slowly the evolution of now we're working together more as a team, we're training more as a team, and also we're not being viewed as much as just dirtbags. When we first started the Fish and Game and Mountain Rescue Service, we weren't close. Charlie Townsend, one of our team members, we had a softball game, and he did a poster that said, "See hulking state employees who carry guns do battle against dirtbag climbers who live in their cars. And we had a softball game, but we were face to face. And now we're talking to people. And it's like that takes time. And all that evolved into what we are today.
Excellent. And then, Paul, I don't know if you have a perspective about that, the transition that you've seen over the years.
The transition that we've seen over the years. Well, we were dirtbag climbers back then. And today, all these teams and the whole New Hampshire North Country Rescue Team family is included in this. We are incredibly highly trained and very serious about how we do things. Back then, we were just a bunch of climbers. If you got into trouble, you give us a call. Whoever was sober would drive, and would all go up and get the thing done, you know. But today, we, on Mountain Rescue Service itself is highly trained in technical rescue. We have swiftwater rescues, highly trained in swiftwater rescue. If you need to see how a line search should really be done, watch PEMI go to work. We've got a highly trained drone team. We've got a highly trained canine team. All very important pieces of a cog of a huge machine that wasn't there in the early 80s.
Yeah, it's when you read back about those time periods, and then you look at where we're at today as far as the volunteer teams, it's definitely expanded significantly. I did want to pivot to talk a little bit about the messaging to hikers and climbers, and I look at, we try to get the message out around safety and making sure that you're making the right decisions. And I know that like Fish and Game has their Trailhead Steward program, and I look at sort of the experience of hikers, and I'm not as much as climbing, but I'm more of a hiker, but I see that there's this bucket of people that are like the inexperienced. They have no idea. They're just going out for once or twice a year. Usually the Trailhead Stewards can help them and get them to the point where, hey, do you have a headlamp or whatnot? Then you've got this group of people that is kind of getting into hiking or climbing, and they know enough to be dangerous, but maybe they're driven and they want to finish a list, or they want to get out there, and the idea of turning back is a failure to them. Then you've got a group, and I suspect most of the audience here is sort of like they've gained enough wisdom, they've been there, they've done that, where it's not that big of a deal to turn around. And I think the end goal for what we want people to think about when they're out there for safety is to know when that red line is approaching and turn around before they hit it. But obviously people, and things happen, like you need rescues if people are just injuring a lower leg injury or something. But how do we educate people to get them to the point where they're more quickly able to know where that red line is and turn around quickly?
It's a tough one. What I want people to know, excuse me, do you have with you what you need to have if you can't go on? It is, first of all, you've decided to do a hike. If you stop along the way and can't go on, are you survivable? It's that simple to start with. Also, I always tell people, 603-356-2137. Text weather forecast to that number. That's the Mount Washington Observatory. And you will see the weather forecast from the top of Mount Washington right there. 603-356-2137. Or you can put radar in, and you will see the radar from the top of Mount Washington. No one should ever set foot on a trail without doing that and seeing what's going to happen. But, most importantly, don't be afraid to turn around. Are you able to spend the night? I have enough gear in my pack that one of my clients, I've guided Mount Washington in winter around 500 times. I have enough gear that if one of my clients can't go on, I can keep them survivable until we can get a team in to get them out. Do you have that gear with you? If you don't, you shouldn't be going up there.
By the way, how's the sound? everybody here, the conversation. So if you guys can just really get this right out there and turn that, yeah. Thank you. Eat it. Just like this. Eat it. There'll be less feedback, too.
Sound engineer.
All right, we can get that.
So Ty, maybe you could speak a little bit too, like we sort of touched on what you can, and thank you, Joe, for kind of outlining what you should have on you, but do you want to delve into a little bit more of the psychology, maybe about when people start pushing themselves a little bit too far, and maybe say like you're going out to hike Mount Washington, like what's a point maybe when you should consider, like maybe, hey, I need to bail on this summit, or like an example scenario?
And I'd love to hear from Paul on this too. I think it's understanding which part of your brain is managing your hike or your climb. So I was talking to a gentleman the other day who said, I break tree line and I see the summit and I have this adrenaline rush, and I listened, and that adrenaline's great. I mean, we all sought it in our 20s, right? And maybe 30s, maybe still. But that's fine, but at some point that has to be switched off or dimmed, and you've got to just get to the rational part of your brain to say, where am I? What is the weather? Is the forecast as expected? What is forecasted? Is it what's actually happening right now? How am I doing? How is my team doing? Is anyone asking me how I'm doing? Because silence is kind of the precursor to chaos within a team. Where am I on the mountain, and is it in relation to where I'm supposed to be at the time I expected to be here? Because the summit might be up there, and when we're talking about that part of your brain that's adrenaline based, that it's fight, flight, or freeze, it's primitive, it's not rational, and it's a summit. It's not a woolly mammoth that you are trying to kill to feed your family or your tribe, and it's not a saber-toothed tiger that's stalking you, right? It's a summit, and it's just having that rational thought around, it's there today, it's going to be there next week. If all of the signs are telling you it's time to turn around, you've got to switch on that part of your brain that's being rational and situationally aware, and realistic about what you're involved in. And I'm going to turn it over to him because he's got so much more experience than I do.
The way I look at when I go out in the hills is it's obviously a very complex thing, but I go with the least common denominator theory. So if I'm out, even with a group of Special Forces and Navy SEALs, I know that there's going to be one person that is the weakest of all those Navy SEALs. And the trick is to keep an eye in the back of your head and identify that weakest Navy SEAL and somehow bring them into the middle of the pack. Don't let them be in the back, because they'll struggle and their mental ability will be compromised. So you bring them up closer to you and you adjust your pace to their pace, and nobody in the group knows this is going on except you and maybe him. And you can get people to the summit that would not be able to get to the summit on their own. The other thing that I think about is if I go on a hike and I forget something. All right, there's mistake number one. I forgot my winter boots. Okay, that's a bad one. What am I going to do? Well, I want to go hiking. So I'm not going to go to the summit of Mount Washington in my sneakers, but I can go to Crystal Cascade. And I can do that safely, and I know I can get back. So you want to constantly be adjusting your goals according to the mistakes that you're making during the day. And if you make more than 2 or 3 mistakes, you probably should reassess your mission. I can't tell you how many times I've been up there and, it was supposed to take you 4 hours to get to the summit, and it's 6 hours and they haven't even gotten halfway, and you think, at what point did you think this wasn't working? and it's really up to you to figure that out. So get a good, strong team leader and be aware of everybody's ability, and go out and have fun. But go have fun with the least common denominator. So if somebody forgot their snowshoes, okay, so we're not going to do this. We're going to do something else. And you'll move you're constantly moving your goal.
Paul, do you have a perspective on Mount Washington in particular for winter hiking? Like, I've always stayed away from the Pinkham Notch side just because, I don't know, it's just, to me, it just seems like Ammonoosuc's a lot easier. And if I pick my weather day, then I get up there and I have a good time. I've always sort of said, like, I would want to go on the Pinkham Notch side with a more experienced group of people. Maybe I need an ice axe. Maybe I need a little bit more crampon work. But what's your perspective or advice for people that want to climb Mount Washington in the winter? Am I on the right track with thinking that, like, the Ammonoosuc side's the way to go?
I think the Ammonoosuc side is probably the most difficult side to do.
Okay,
because the wind becomes...
That's not what I was expecting.
Who knew? Yeah. I didn't know that.
The wind comes from the west.
Yep.
So you're going to be hiking with the wind to your back. And when you come up the Ammonoosuc and you're coming toward Lakes of the Clouds Hut, that's a very nebulous area. It's very hard to follow that trail right there. And as soon as you turn around, you're going to be teeth into the wind, and you're not going to be able to find your tracks to get down unless you really know the area. Now, for me, I've guided probably not as many times as Joe, but a lot of times. I think the Pinkham side is probably the easiest place in the Whites to navigate.
So, Joe, there's my dumb idea or my dumb decision.
I have most of your compass measurements are very easy. The navigation is very easy because you're boxed in by Tuckermans. You can get to East Snowfield. When you get to Split Rock, it's 100 steps to Tuckerman's Junction. You take a 90-degree turn. It's 15 or 20 minutes to the parking lot. When you're coming down, it's 10 minutes. You take a left, 100 steps to Split Rock, and you go down till you bump into Tuckerman's. You follow that shoulder all the way down. You're going to get off that mountain. And what I've done in all my climbing is I try to break my climbs to box myself into geographical segments so that I know what's on my right and I know what's on my left so that I can navigate without even a compass. I bump into features that I've memorized before I've started my trip.
See, I always just thought that go up Ammonoosuc and then I can assess what's going on at lakes, but I guess I learned something new.
Well, you just want to watch the weather and watch that section between Treeline and Lakes of the Clouds. It's very hard. It's easy to get lost in there.
Okay.
Personally, I prefer guiding on the Ammonoosuc side just because I've done the other side so many times that I'm up on the Ammonoosuc side and it's just like I'm not sure what's around the corner, which I love. There is the issue with the wind because the wind comes from the west, and if the wind comes up, you're screwed. But personally, I prefer it guiding because I get afternoon sun, and the fact that I just don't know the trail as well, which makes me more aware of what I'm doing.
Right. And if you can't do Mount Washington from the Amley side, you can probably get Monroe, which is a wonderful peak.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. But so the other thing too is what you're telling me is if you're an inexperienced winter hiker, like the guide service is pursue a guide, and you guys will get them up safely.
Absolutely, but we won't necessarily. The number of times I have headed up, knowing and been very clear with my clients, we are not going to summit today.
Right.
But I will get them to Treeline on the east side. And if a person has never felt in winter a 55-mile-an-hour wind in their face, it is an educational experience. And I have never, ever said, okay, that's it, we're going down. I've never had a client go, no, let's keep going. Not once. And what I say to them, to a lot of people, is when you're driving, in your car on Route 128 or 95, and you're driving at 55 miles an hour, stick your head out the window.
It's pretty accurate. And I'll leave it to any of you guys that want to answer this, but we're all here for the full conditions event, but do you guys want to describe what full conditions actually is, maybe for people who actually don't know what a full condition day is?
Joe and I were on a rescue where we were going after a guy and his girlfriend, and he was presumed in either Diagonal or Yale Gully one time. And we got out of the Thiokol, and we were pretty much crawling on our hands and knees and completely pinned. And until we got into the lee of the wind behind the summit cone, we really couldn't move. We shouldn't have been there, but that's full conditions. You couldn't see the length of this table. We were navigating pretty much by memory.
Incredible.
And I'll throw one out there when we were both on a rescue that we were not called to go immediately. Mountain Rescue Service, I get the call from the Fish and Game, and I go on the computer and call everybody else out. We were called at 10:30. We were told not to come yet because the winds were gusting over 110. They couldn't get us up in snowcats up the east side of the mountain, so they took us on the west side. They took us up to Caps Ridge Trail. As we got to treeline, the OBS radioed down to cheer us up that the temperature had gone from 44 below Fahrenheit to 40 below. And the wind was blowing a constant 70 to 85 miles an hour in our face. That's full conditions.
That's where you don't want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah. Just quickly, full conditions, taking your 10-year-old son ice climbing in below zero weather, having his feet freeze, he's in tears, and then you take him home, and he announces what happened to Mom. That's full conditions. Tyler, stand up.
Yeah. Once
Okay.
Mom finds out. So,
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this segment up. We thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
But I did want to, I guess, just one last question. So, Joe, dumb decisions. Ty, you've talked about group dynamics before. Probably one of my dumb decisions was I was in a group hike, winter overnight. We set up our tents, Signal Ridge at the flat section of it, and then set up our tents, got our gear. I took all my gear with me to go up to the summit. It was late in the day. There was like 6 of us. I didn't know everybody. One of the guys didn't bring any gear with him. He just put a water bottle in his pocket, and we ran up Signal Ridge. He was well ahead of us. He's going back and forth because he's getting cold. He's drinking. He ran out of water. We took a shot of bourbon at the top to celebrate. He starts shivering. He's like, I'm going to head down. It's getting dark out. We had our headlamps on. We didn't realize that this he's going to start becoming hypothermic. He's ahead of us. He's got his headlamp. Thank goodness that he was able to find the camp, even though it was dark out. When we arrived back at camp, he was fully hypothermic. He's screaming, and he was able to get into his sleeping bag. Fully hypothermic. He's screaming. Me and one of my friends, we started heating up stew, figuring all right, we'll get some hot food in him. Didn't work. We got hot water into him, and then instantly he was better. But stupid mistake. Group dynamics. I kind of knew that. I was like, look, something's off. He shouldn't be doing this. He should be staying with us. But I didn't say anything because I was just I didn't know the guy that well, and I just figured all right, he'll be safe. But my dumb mistake. The group dynamics, you've talked about this, Ty, before, around people being hesitant to speak up when they're in a group because maybe they're the weakest Navy SEAL in the group and they don't want to look weak. But what do you say about the group dynamics, and what advice do you give the folks here about making sure that they do speak up?
So if you go to the work that Paul and Joe do with guiding, the guide's primary motivation and agenda is to get the client back safely. That is not always the case within a group. Everyone in a group has, outside of a guiding context, everyone in that group has their own individual motivations for being there and goals. And I think it's just having a conversation even before you get to the trailhead. It's harder to have it at the trailhead when everyone's packing up than to have it before you. What are we looking to do today? What is the goal? And polling the group, because you might want to go to the summit. I might just want to get out for the experience because work's been killer and I need to get out. And you might have a completely different goal for that day. And I think it's just good to get that on the table when we can. And I go back to what he said about recognizing who. I think the weakest link is the wrong word, but who might be the slower of the group, having the awareness to know who that is, and then modifying the makeup of the team to make sure we're all having a good experience and getting where we want to go. So I go back to what Paul said.
Right, yeah, just keep checking in a group dynamic. Don't burn people out, please. Awesome. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody. And then, Paul, you'll be back. And then Joe and Ty, you guys will be around if people want to talk to you afterwards.
And just a quick thanks to Mar and Ian, Steve, and Phil from Reklis. Just so grateful for look what you've built. It's amazing. And thank you so much.
Yeah.
I have a quick shout out I have to make to all of the partners of members of Mountain Rescue Service and the other teams who support us. When I get a call in the middle of the night and I am going out, I have a wife at home who knows what I'm going into, and yet she is supportive, and I couldn't do it if she wasn't. And all of us have partners, men or women, that support us, and we couldn't do it without their help. It's critical.
Yeah. And folks, if there's anybody out there that's writing a book, just call Joe. He'll talk to you, no problem.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
We all know that hiking a mountain can be hard at times, so here's a corny dad joke to help you get over it. Ba-dum-bum.
All right, we're going to do dad jokes. I have my daughter Caroline in the crowd over here. She's with her boyfriend Devin, so shout out to Caroline for giving me the ability to be able to do dad jokes. So, all right, so why did the beer bottle... So this is my friend Julie. She sent me this last night, so shout out to you. Why did the beer bottle file a police report? Because it got mugged. All right, stupid. I tried to catch some fog on the trail earlier, but I missed. Get it? Missed?
I get it.
Okay, so, all right. I asked the mountain if it was always this angry. It answered with a rock slide. Message received. I don't know.
Nice.
All right, why don't hikers trust steers on the trail? Because they're always up to something. All right.
Those are really good.
Awesome. All right. So
really good.
Yeah, Stomp got those. So is Forrest from Mountain Wanderer, and then Nick from Burgeon. You guys want to come up? Hey, Forrest. Good.
He's lurking in the shadows.
Stomp's going to get you guys set up. While they're getting set up, I got one more stupid mistake I made. And Joe, you'll appreciate this one. It's another dumb mistake. I was just in Hawaii, and I was in Mauna Kea. So Mauna Kea is like 13,000 feet. We just drove up in a Jeep Wrangler, and we got to the summit. And the summit of Mauna Kea is really not that impressive. It's got a bunch of like telescopes and things like that you can see. And my wife, she's not really a hiker. She just kind of wants to just humor me. So I was able to negotiate Mauna Kea. Get up there. It's a nice view. And then I like stepped over a fence, and there was like a trail that you could go up to. So I stopped walking down the trail. My wife's doing something, taking pictures or whatever. So I stopped walking down this trail. There's a lady coming my way. And I didn't realize, Stomp, what I did is I was on this trail that is like a sacred trail for like Hawaiian, like, you're not supposed to go there unless you have like a Hawaiian guru or somebody with you. So thank goodness I was only like maybe 20 feet down the trail, and the lady said like, hey, did you see the sign? I said, I didn't see a sign because I jumped over a fence.
And she's like, yeah, you can't go here without like a Hawaiian priest or something. So I was like, oh my goodness, thank God. Who I didn't know, who knew? But it's a good thing. It's
Classic.
like it's a reminder that like these local, if you don't have local knowledge, like you might break a
If
custom.
you see a fence, you might not want to just climb over it.
Yeah, my wife was like just done with me by then. So anyway, so all right. So Forrest, you're here. We wanted to. It's nice to meet you. So you recently took over ownership of the Mountain Wanderer bookstore from Steve Smith's, right?
That's right.
Awesome. So
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Forrest.
Yeah. So we wanted to just have you up to talk a little bit about, why don't you give the listeners a little bit about your background, and then can you give us like the story about how this developed?
Yeah. First of all, thank you guys for having me. I've been to almost all of the other full conditions events in the past. I had to miss last year because of an injury and a surgery, but I met most of you guys at the previous ones, and I'm glad to be here tonight. So thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I worked in a different industry before this. I've been a lifelong hiker. My parents were backpackers here in the mountains, and they took us out, me and my sister, out when we were kids in the 80s and the 90s. I worked in music for most of my life since then, which is cool. It was really exciting, but I got to a point where I was ready for a change. This past April, I left my former job and was freelancing and trying to figure out what the next step would be, and I saw the announcement from Steve, and I think it was in June, saying that he was going to close the shop. And we came up, we bought a whole bunch of books, had him sign all the guidebooks that we didn't have yet. And on the drive back to Massachusetts, my partner, my girlfriend Caroline, and I were talking about, well, hey, maybe this is the opportunity that we were looking for. So we called up Steve the next morning, and the rest is kind of history now.
Did you have any retail experience at all?
During the pandemic, when we weren't doing concerts, as that was my former career, I worked in a retail beer store for a few months, but that's my only retail experience before.
And then how difficult was the transition to basically like you're taking over fully from Steve at this point, right?
Yeah, I spent a few days in August kind of training effectively to see how he'd been running things, and starting September 1st, we took over.
Is there any significant changes that have happened, or is your plan to just keep things similar for now and then figure out what you plan to do in the future?
For the moment, it's more or less even keel. The bookshop looks effectively the same as it always has. The biggest change is that we've opened up a gift shop under the same banner, a Mountain Wanderer, next door. If you recall, when you walk in on the right is where the bookshop. Now we've rented out the retail space on the left also, and it's a cool expansion of the shop now.
What kind of products are in the gift store?
It's a mix of different things. It's not like your typical souvenir shop per se. We've got a lot of handmade goods from people around New Hampshire and around New England otherwise. Some of it was some of the same vendors and creators, makers that Steve had already been featuring. You know, we've got Sherpa Ant stuff, but now we have more. I saw Gail and Tim here tonight from Naughty Pines. He was carrying their Karens already. Now we also have more of their signs and other stuff too. And yeah, lots of other fun stuff. There's upcycled clothing, jewelry, home decor, games, all kinds of stuff.
Awesome. And then long term, are you like, I know Steve was very prolific blogger, writer. Do you have any aspirations to do any of your own writing?
I'm just learning how to run the bookshop for now.
All right. Oh, well, let's go. Let's go.
You have a lot of slides to bushwhack, I think.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But Steve is still around. He's active. He's still posting his blog on the Facebook page. He's still posting his blog on the mountainwanderer.com. And he's even around the shop sometimes, too.
Do you find that now that you're taking over the shop, do you have time to get out hiking and doing a lot of activities outside of the shop, or is it 100% focused on the business?
We're not out as much as Steve is these days.
Yeah, that's true.
But we're doing it just the way he had. We're on Sundays, he would cherry pick a good weather weekday for the weekdays ahead and take that day off, and we're kind of operating the same way, always open on the weekends.
Okay.
And we update that at themountainwanderer.com and a post on Facebook every Sunday so people know what the hours will be for the week ahead. We're also noting there when Steve will be in the shop, too.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. Everybody was bummed out that, like, Steve was going to finish up at Mountain Wanderer, and there was everyone I talked to about it was like, oh, hopefully somebody will take it over, and we appreciate you taking up the mantle here, and everybody should go into Lincoln and check out the bookstore, check out the gift shop, and then my advice, I feel like you got to get some coffee situation in there, too. That's the way to go.
Coffee would be good.
Yeah, coffee and smoothies. That's the young people like that stuff. So charge them like $9 for an espresso, you'd be good to go.
good idea.
That's awesome. So,
I'll be a barista soon.
exactly. So, but hang out, and then Nick, you're here from Burgeon, so thank you. Keeping us warm.
Thank you guys for having me. My name is Nick. I work at Burgeon Outdoors in Lincoln. I run our retail studio, amongst some other things. There's 12 of us there, and 6 of those are our production seamstresses that make everything in-house. So this is about as local and sustainable as U.S. clothing gets nowadays. But like they were saying earlier, we design, make, and test these clothes for the conditions that we face right here in the White Mountains. For some of you that were out earlier today on the hike up Mount Pemmy, you may have seen a very bright yellow shell that's being tested out for Pemmy search and rescue. So we really care about the gear that we make and the people that it's going to, because we know it can make all the difference.
And then is there any? I know that you can buy online, you can buy in the Lincoln shop, but you're in retail in some other stores as well?
We're in a few mom and pop shops around the state. International Mountain Equipment over in North Conway carries our stuff. REI location in North Conway and Bedford, New Hampshire. And if any of you guys know Taylor, the New Hampshire hiker, she's got a gift store down in Guilford, New Hampshire. She also carries some of our stuff.
Excellent.
And if you're a new hiker, like what's the Burgeon starter pack? Like I have like I forget what those hoodies are called. I have like 3 of those hoodies. I love them. But what's the Burgeon starter pack? What do you advise people to get first?
I guess that depends how deep your pockets are first.
Right.
But
they all have a lot of money.
Right.
New Subarus.
So we'd start next to skin and go with a base layer. We have a Flume base layer collection and a few different models. It's now currently won 3 or 4 best overall hiking shirts from Field and Stream. There's a lot of people outside of New England that have grown to love Burgeon's mission and more so the gear that we make. But I'd say base layer, our Highlander hoodie is our kind of classic grid fleece mid layer. Our hottest seller right now is our Alpha Direct hoodie that comes in 3 different weights. That's kind of the pinnacle of active insulation on the market right now, and we even make our own hard shell jackets and pants. So that would be your kind of 4-piece Burgeon starter kit right there.
Stomp, you don't have to worry about this anymore because you're skinny, but my favorite part of the Burgeon is the Highlander hoodie. When you have your backpack and you have to like clip your backpack and you got a little bit of a gut here.
Yeah.
I hate that, but like you have the pocket so you can put it inside the pocket and then you don't feel fat. That's what I love about Burgeon.
I'm sure that's exactly what they had in mind when they designed the pocket on the Highlander hoodie.
I have not gotten that feedback yet, but thank you.
No one has said that to you?
You are a first.
Oh my God! I say that to everyone. I'm like, I tell people like when they snap on the outside, I'm like, no, you got to do it in the pocket. I can see your rolls.
So. Form follows function, Yeah.
Not all of us do it outside the pocket.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. So everyone should go to Mountain Wanderer. Everyone should go to Burgeon and then buy a bunch of stuff. And we'll be all geared up and we'll be well read too.
Nice and toasty.
And so some of you guys have seen the Full Conditions hoodies that we collaborated with between Ty Gagne, Reklis, and Burgeon Outdoors. These are available for pre-order. You can go on our website. You can type in Full Conditions in the search bar, or you can go to men's or women's hoodies, and it'll be there available for pre-order. 50% of the proceeds from these sales get donated to the New Hampshire Outdoor Council, which divvies up their funds for search and rescue. So goes to a good cause.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys, and definitely you guys will both be around. So come see you when we get to Reklis, right?
Yeah, and if anybody has any questions on how to layer, if you literally just got into hiking yesterday, I don't mind. There's no dumb questions. Come find me. I'm more than happy to talk.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. Awesome.
Oh my goodness, the glare off the head is unbelievable.
Waxed for this.
You did?
I did.
You did.
I shaved.
Good.
This is as Brazilian as I get.
You shine on, you crazy diamond.
Do you guys need more light down there? You good?
All right.
All right, Nick, you take this. I'm coughing like a
I was trying to give you a little break over here before you pass out.
Hey, listen, hold on. So, just a pointer. I know you don't like microphones, but you got to do this nice and close.
I'm so uncomfortable.
Don't be afraid of the microphone.
Hey, how we doing? It smells like Ty. Ty, I'm also an asshole. If you want to write a book, just call me.
You got me this.
Yeah, I did.
So, if you guys are too soft, you might hear this, okay? All right.
What the hell was that?
That's just a warning. So, do good.
I just shit myself. Thanks.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Now Dave shits at the Colonial, not just in the woods.
New Instagram account. So anyways, we figured have you guys up to talk. Andy, because you were there. Dave, because you can just provide...
I have no idea why I'm here.
Roasting.
I'm sure as hell not eye candy. So I don't.
While Dave is incredibly humorous, he's actually a very experienced hiker as well, so we figured you could add some insightful stuff as well as some humor, which I feel like you do effortlessly, so that shouldn't be a problem. But I think most of us heard it made national news, and Andy is actually a star. He was quoting basically national news publications now, but there was a heck of a day. I think, about a month ago now, something like that?
Yeah, it's right around a month ago.
Yeah.
October 25th was that weekend there. The Saturday was the bigger day, and then it'll trickle over into that Sunday as well.
And fortunately, the COG was running because just a really bad situation up on Mount Washington. Over 20 people basically taken down from the COG. Hypothermia, just a kind of a classic shoulder season day. Winter moved in early. I think a lot of people are seeing that up in the mountains this year, but especially on this day. And I'll let you kind of go into it, Andy, since you were there.
Yeah, I really had this front row seat to what happens when you mix full-on winter conditions with that October optimism and a summit that's got these trappings of civilization, or so people think. It was fortuitous because it was our last weekend of running trains all the way to the summit before we go into the partial trips for our winter season. And the calendar says it's fall, but the mountain was very clearly like, absolutely not. And Mount Washington does not care about your TikTok or your Instagram or your resume or anything else, and this was a day that really had that shine through. It was about 20 degrees ambient, winds in the 30s, 3 to 4 inches of new snow above tree line, and the wind chill hovering around 0. Basically all signs point to winter there. And we were doing our normal day. We're up there at the summit with one of our trips, turning the trains to go back down. And then we start to notice this stream of hikers drifting towards us. At first just a couple of people, then a few more. And we started to very quickly become aware that these folks weren't just a little cold. These were several folks in individual parties kind of slipping into the early onset of hypothermia with strong shivering, glassy looks, slow responses, and not making clear and sort of concise decisions at that point. And a lot of them had this kind of whacked out notion that they, had they get to the summit and they were done for the day, they were going to call an Uber up the auto road, believe it or not. That was a line out of one of them. And not only was the auto road only running the tree line that day because of the conditions up there, but that's not going to happen anyway. The state park
Andy,
was
do you mean to
closed.
tell me that I can't Uber down from the top of Mount Washington?
You can call one.
Can I lift?
You could probably do a lift. Uber Black, I think, will get you, but the regular standard fare one, I don't think they're coming.
Oh, okay. Darn it.
So they're coming over to us, and then I started to make my way around the summit to see what I could assess, and there were some folks that were in really poor layering choices, cotton, sneakers, and the whole recipe for disaster. They had gotten soaked, they had gotten exhausted, they had trudged through that snow, their feet were starting to freeze, and there were about 20 that day on that Saturday. Not one large group, as a lot of people are sort of misconstrued, but individual groups of 3 to 4 or 2 duos, and a lot of them were from Canada, several from Massachusetts, and they're all kind of coalescing around the train. A few were kind of clustered near the summit sign.
Why
Really
did you have to point
confused.
that out? What does that matter?
I'm going to dime myself out here. I'm a transplanted
Andy's just trying to give us a good
so,
visual.
It's a part of my history I like to forget, but all love to the Massachusetts people. I'm one of them, so that doesn't necessarily mean you're an ill decision maker. But a lot of them are really confused why they can't get in the building. The state park had closed for the season, so a lot of them are banking on this either ride down or shelter at the top, warm up, get a bowl of chili, a chili dog or what have you, and that just wasn't going to be in the cards that day. So between ones that could kind of advocate for themselves and tell me their backstory where they began their hike, most of which was on the east side in Pinkham Notch, I let them know what we could do with them with the train. And then the more severe cases, the ones where the hypothermia really started to grip, I wanted to get them in the train ASAP so they could de-layer and start to replace layers and get in front of our really strong heaters in the locomotive. So kind of divided them up based on what their condition was and started to kind of triage the more emergent cases, and then some of the more folks that could kind of deal with things but were just exhausted. We got them seats, but we were pretty well sold out with round-trip train riders. So this was somewhere in between a regular hiker one-way and a full-fledged rescue. It was kind of right place at the right time for us. And had we not been there, we'd be talking about this certainly in a different light. I think we wound up having about 20 people that day and about 5 or 6 on Sunday. And I realized no one's coming, they're realizing no one's coming for us up here. We're not just running trains anymore. Now we're a rolling rescue platform for these folks, and getting them inside and trying to out of these conditions that they didn't plan on as they started their hike, the onset below tree line, and then worked their way up and got into these wintry conditions, and unfortunately didn't have that desire to, or that wherewithal to turn around and head back down when they hit that. They got that summit fever and they said, I'm here from X place, I have to do this now.
Andy, I got a question. So I took my dad up the COG a couple, September or October or whatever. If my dad was on the COG and then he went up to the top and then all of a sudden hypothermic hikers, he would have a heart attack. What were the regular paying customers thinking when you were bringing in the folks that were kind of in trouble with hiking?
No, that's a valid point. These people are here for a round-trip train ride, and while the weather is a thrill to them, we'd let them off at the summit. The train would basically lay over for a half hour so they could get out and experience that set of conditions. But without the building being open, we adapt the schedule so the train stayed. And it's a novelty to them, but when they're sick of it, they can head back to the comfort of the heated train coach there. And they see these just absolute flood of hikers that were now cramming in every open seat. The worst of ones I took in the cabs, but some of the other fringe cases, here come these folks into the train piling in, and there were a lot of aghast faces. Where is this coming from? What's going on here? A lot of people unaware of how much of a potential emergency or a disaster that was being averted it was. They just thought, oh, here's some tired hikers getting a ride down. A few people were more aware of how serious it was when they saw the clothing choice of some of them. A lot of sweatpants, for whatever reason, was the sort of attire of the day that day, unfortunately. But they were kind of thrown off because they knew that, that these couple seats that were unoccupied on the way up, and here crams in this soaking wet, very disheveled, unpleasant, not doing so well hiker, and they know something's up at that point. So I think a lot of people were caught off guard by that.
Do you continue the tour on the way down with a couple of jabs? Like, hey, everybody, thanks for paying for tickets, and the rest of you. On your left, you'll see Jacob's Ladder. Well, you would if it wasn't 50 below and blowing snow.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because a couple I had in the cab with me, once they kind of got their wits a little bit better about them, I turned to them and just kind of blankly out of nowhere just said, so, if you guys really ran into the throes of this and were really strapped, which one in your party would you eat? And they kind of stared blankly at me for a second, and then they gave me an answer, actually.
So out of all the people up there, Andy, and I know you have a bit of a SAR background too, is there anybody that you kind of had to reach out to proactively and be like, hey, we're going to try to take you down? Or did that kind of happen as well?
Oh, to intervene, to really... Yeah, there was one group that were pretty keen on wanting to hike down, and when they were aware the train was going to bring them down on the west side as opposed to the east side where they originated, then comes that complex situation where how are they going to get that ride back to their car in Pinkham Notch? And in speaking to them, I lectured them about how that is the lesser of your worries right now. You want to get into the heat, be able to de-layer, dry off, and get out of these conditions, and then we can worry later about how you're going to get back to your car. One of them I wound up giving a ride to, as a matter of fact, just driving around on my way home. But that's inconsequential in scope of what you need to consider with preserving, your homeostasis, like keeping yourself going and not risking that. I have no doubt that had I allowed some of these folks to proceed with their plan to hike down as intended, those that were stubborn about it, that it would have evolved into a more complex rescue call where actually teams would have to be dispatched, and it would have been a much more dire scenario at that point.
Yeah, and this story blew up. It made national news, which was crazy, but I guess it was probably a good thing that it did blow up, because I wonder, like, were there other people queued up the following weekend that were thinking, like, oh, I'm going to get up there and it's going to be great, and, you know, maybe I'll see some fall foliage, and they didn't realize. So getting that out into the press probably just saved you guys a headache. But did you see anything like the next weekend, or was it pretty slow compared to what happened?
Yeah, it definitely helped, because the Sunday following, some word had gotten out already, and that was a better, less had occurred that day in terms of poor decision making that we witnessed. And the following weekend, that word had gotten, one of the most important words that got out was that was our final weekend running trains to the summit. So there wasn't going to be that safety net anymore either for folks to rely on for a one-way down. So as much as I was kind of overwhelmed and inundated by all these press requests with that, I rolled with it as an educational tool, because I figured, well, even though this wasn't a true full-fledged rescue in that we called out specifically for it and we had to do a lot of complex operations, it was a little bit of right place at the right time, a little bit of quick, good decision-making and on-scene triaging, but the message is what I wanted to get out. So I fielded every one of those press requests so that that word would get out to the community and folks planning trips to say, hey, there are no services. You have to hike this mountain like all the other 48, where the summit is halfway and there are no services.
Well, thanks, Andy. It's always good to hear from someone on the ground, kind of like that experience sort of happening, like what it's like in the moment when you kind of hit situations like that. It's great. And thank you, Dave, for adding a little bit of humor around there as well.
Yeah. Let's give a shout out to Andy and Dave. Thanks. And you guys can hang out here.
Yeah, hang out up here. Yeah. We're not done with you yet. We're not done with you, Dave. You didn't shine your head for nothing.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people give the COG a hard time in the AMC and they complain, but it's just a good reminder that like it's a whole community, and we've got the volunteer rescue crews, and we've got the fish and game officers, and then we've got the AMC and the COG and the auto road. They all step up time to time when they need to. So, don't give the COG as hard of a time as we usually do.
Yeah, I'm not unaware of valid critiques of the operation. Certainly, I won't shy away from those whatsoever. But in my tenure in leadership there, I've made sure that we will assist in every single rescue attempt that we're called upon by Fish and Game to do so. And then there are times where I'll overtly offer the service as an option for them if it makes sense on the west side of the mountain. So we're always down for that, and we'll continue to be down for that.
All right, let's get Reklis Steve up here.
Hey, hold my beer. It's time to find out what Mike and Stomp are drinking. On this week's Beer Talk.
Thought you were going to come with beer. You didn't bring any beer for us. New beer. We're almost down. We're almost empty.
I saw a couple up here, and I know that there's maybe no more at concessions because I got one of the last three.
Okay, well, that's good. You guys are making money.
So, Steve, you got the rule, right? Nice and close?
Nice and close. Yeah, I'll do my best. I don't want to be on the
just checking
of that.
He'll do it. He turns the mic off, too.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you see that?
I mean business.
He's not screwing around.
Yeah, I'm not messing around. All right, let's go. By the way, this beer is fantastic. This is a good batch, huh?
So I have a story about this. Like, I know we're running out of time, but I have a story about this thing.
Yeah?
So years ago, I used to ref high school wrestling. I don't know if you know that about me.
I do.
For like 10, 12 years, I reffed high school wrestling. So this kid, I don't know what happened. He got a bloody nose and he was bleeding all over the mat. And typically, you get like a spray bottle where you have to wash the mat off. And like most of the time, I let the coaches do it. But I don't know what was happening with this one. I figured I'll be a nice guy and wash the mat off. So I didn't realize that like we use these for like the end of a match or whatever. I didn't know. So I grabbed this thinking it was the spray bottle, and I bent over and I went and I just went, and everybody, like the whole gym, thought it was pretty.
Did you
funny,
have to do it?
What's that?
It's all good.
Shame. Yeah. So anyway, now we're over time. I had a story.
It's okay. It's all right.
All right. So, Steve, it sounds like we had a fun hike on Mount Pemmy today.
I skipped out on the hike. I had to do some housework and errands, but yeah, I heard on the Reklis channel there was a sort of alert back to the brew pub saying, "Hey, there's like 70 people up here, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going back to Reklis afterwards. So here's a heads up." Yeah, it sounded like a great time. I had some serious FOMO. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it certainly seemed like it was a good day. Was it clear out there for you guys? Oh, excellent. It was clouded on Mark Garfield today. We couldn't see anything. So I'm glad somebody got a view. So Steve, would you like to talk a little bit about maybe the brewing process for this delicious full conditions beer?
Yeah, the full conditions brew is to the point now where, this is our fourth year making it. We usually do 2 or 3 batches in a winter season. So we're really done making any meaningful changes that you're gonna taste and observe. I think at least that's the goal. Maybe some minor tweaks here and there, but no, the big thing that makes full conditions special is the yeast strain that we use. We use a thiolized yeast strain. I've talked about this every year that we've done it, so I don't want to get too into it. But yeah, that's the reason why you're tasting those really unique tropical flavors. It's very guava, it's very passion fruit, some grapefruit even, is not because of any cool specific hop variety. It's really the yeast that's pushing this one, and that's one of my favorite things about this beer. Ian and Marlena sent me out to a conference, before we did this beer, and that's where we learned about some of these new yeast products, and we took those home and said, hey, let's mess around with this. When Ty said he wanted to do an IPA, we had that puzzle piece in the back of our brains, so we talked to Ty about it. He liked the flavor ideas, and now here it is. And I appreciate Stomp. You said this is a good batch. I think this has fallen into place. This is our first batch of full conditions for the year. There's another one in the tank and another one on the schedule. So this seemed to go really well today. I know that there were like 6 cases of beers sold in pre-sale. The Colonial, as I said earlier, has sold out. So there's definitely a demand for it, and we're hoping to fill it.
Yeah. This is my first beer in a month, and I'm buzzing.
Oh,
Caroline, you're driving home.
Same. So anything new going on with Reklis these days?
There's a lot new going on with Reklis. Yeah, we had a couple of staff members who ended up moving on from Reklis and finding new jobs and in fields that they're really passionate about. And we had to step production back a little bit before we could fill those holes. And we had a bunch of interviews with a bunch of really great people. Everybody wants to work in craft beer, right? I mean, that's the way it seemed. My calendar would fill up with, interview. And we found somebody who we're super excited about. They're going to be starting up pretty soon, and hopefully we'll get them trained and be back into full production pretty soon. And that's all happening at the same time as we're working to onboard with a new distributor. That's new for us. We're working with a third-party distributor. So the growth has been really great. We've gotten wonderful feedback from them. In the first 60 or so days with this distributor, they said that we've sold more beer than some of their clients have, or some of their accounts have all year long. So we feel really good about it. It's been great, and we're looking forward to seeing how far we can push Reklis in the state of New Hampshire.
Awesome. Well, you guys make delicious beer. I love it. Do you have any new beers on the horizon? Any new sort of brew ideas?
So I had one fun idea that I wanted to do for the Christmas season. I've wanted to brew a beer with dates for a long time because I read that Egyptians used to brew with dates a lot, and I thought that sounded like a really fun flavor pairing, especially around the holiday season. But because of our schedule switch-ups, we had to make room on the schedule for beers like Full Conditions, our flagship beers that we need to keep on the line. So we've got some fun ideas cooking. One of our hop suppliers showed up the other day, and he brought me a bunch of samples. He was over at the Vermont Brewers Conference. He said red IPAs are back. So we've been thinking, hey, there we go. We got one sale.
We found the drunk.
So we've been thinking about something like that. So
somebody likes the color red.
We've always got something new cooking. Yeah, and I'm excited to see what we can get in the tank this winter.
What about carry-out stout? Let's hear about that.
Yeah, carryout is one of our beers that we have on pretty much all the time. Every time we brew it, we make a donation to Pemisar, our this side of the Notch search and rescue team, and it's doing well with distribution as well. You know, we send it out, and the distributor sells it, and it's tough for us to try and keep up. It's almost always on in the brew pub, so come on down if you want some carryout stout. And the more you drink it, the more we'll brew it, the more we can donate. So, yeah,
that's a phenomenal stout. It really is
Thank you.
delicious.
Yeah, it's one of the few stouts that the feedback, some of the feedback we got from the distributor is most of the stouts that they get, or a lot of them are flavored or adjunct or something like that. So if you like something that's a little bit simpler, maybe you don't want peanut butter or coconut or something in your stout, I think there's a great place for that, but it's just not in the carry-out stout. Yeah.
I have a question. A couple weeks back, I was on a hike with Dave, and he stepped in a big pile of dog you-know-what. And I was wondering, did you bring these flies tonight? Did you check your shoes?
I actually found this nice truck outside, and I recognized the license plate, and so I just threw them inside an open window. I'll pick them up on the way out.
Good.
So, Steve, I know you've got a background in SAR as well. Do you want to talk maybe a little bit about what's going on kind of with Pemisar and maybe some of the newer changes and things on the horizon in that front?
Yeah, I've just been on a couple of searches this year, but I've also been trying to help out our team member Lena, who's spearheading our social media stuff. So we'd love to hear, actually, now that I have a bit of an audience, I'd love to get some feedback what you folks want to see Pemisar talking about on social media. So if you have any ideas or any questions of things you'd like to see, hit us up on any of the social medias. We're on, Instagram, Facebook, maybe even TikTok at some point. We'd love to get some ideas and some feedback.
I'd like to see a TikTok channel. That'd be good.
Dave just went whoa, so I'm curious what the whoa.
What's a TikTok?
I did have a question. Like, I had some ideas for exotic beers, like ingredients that you could make. Can you make a beer with rotisserie chicken?
There's a lot of protein in that, and that's going to mess with head retention and foam, and it probably wouldn't be a very attractive beer or a tasty one, I would think.
That's too bad. What if you use the Publix rotisserie chicken?
I've never met an unattractive beer. I don't know.
What about a cheesecake beer?
Cheesecake, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I don't hate the sound of that.
Okay, all right.
I mean, cheesecake is probably if I had to pick a dessert, I don't have a sweet tooth particularly, but cheesecake's on top of the list for me.
Okay, all right. Well, think about it.
I'm thinking about it.
Okay,
I know there are some of those out there. I've seen, some beers that are like that.
All right, well, Steve, thank you so much. And we're all going to flood. We're going to go over to Reklis in a few minutes and go crazy.
I will see you guys over there.
Yeah. So basically, like, you're short staffed right now. You don't have enough beer. That sounds like a challenge to me.
Well, I'm pretty proud of the team that we do have. Ian and myself in the brewery. I think we're doing a pretty good job keeping the lines full.
All right. Well, let's just force him to work overtime. Let's go when we get out there.
That's a great problem to have.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So, all right. Thank you so much to you, Steve, and all of Reklis.
Thank you, guys.
All right. You're awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Big shout out for Steve. Thank you.
See you later.
Thanks, guys.
You can leave now.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Andy. Big shout out. Let's give them a big round of applause.
They're loving the limelight.
It's time for Slasher's Guest of the Week. Very cool, very cool.
All right, where is Paul?
That was going to be my question. Do we have a Paul Cormier?
There he is.
Yes, there he is. I was looking through him. It's hard to see down there.
He's getting his cardio in.
Pick a mic, any mic.
Yeah, you get a choice of a chair now. Pick any chair. Yes, thank you for coming back up for us. We weren't done with you yet. So, Paul, I understand you're president of Mountain Rescue Service. So that's, to me, that's such a monument. It seems to me like such a monumental thing to be doing, to be a president of a search and rescue team in general. Do you want to talk a little bit about, I guess we'll start with sort of your background. I know obviously you're in climbing, but maybe your experiences here hiking in New Hampshire, climbing, and maybe kind of how you started to get into search and rescue.
Wow.
Sorry, I loaded that one.
How many hours you got? Well, I started climbing around 1968. I was around 14 years old, and back then we didn't have any professional climbing instruction like we do today, and a lot of the equipment hadn't been made or imported at that time. So my first ice axe I made in shop, and
nice.
And I went to Peter Limmer's and I bought a pair of 10-point crampons and bent the front points out so I'd have front points, and so we started from that background. And those that know me know that I like to build equipment, and it probably came from that. I started guiding. I had been climbing for about 20 years or so, and the owner of International Mountain Climbing School, Nick Yardley at the time, asked me to help out with the first ice fest, and that's really how I got into guiding. I had no intention of guiding, and I taught that ice fest, and I liked it, so then I started taking courses, and I guided more and more and more, and so that's kind of how my professional guiding career went. Most of us never end up doing what we thought we were going to be doing, and so as my guiding career went on, I was a pretty strong climber at the time, but the older you get, the more skilled you get technically, but the less of a rope gun you become, and the less strong you become. And at some points, somebody thought I had enough knowledge to start teaching these crevasse rescue courses and stuff like that. So I started doing that, and I took more and more courses, and next thing you know, I find myself teaching high-angle search and rescue across the country for a couple of different companies. I didn't really get involved in search and rescue probably until around 1988. And my friend Mike Pelshad, I can tip my hat to him. I was living in Twin Mountain at the time, and we had an issue of a couple that were lost somewhere between Mount Washington and points north. And Mike called me up. We didn't really have a rescue team at the time. MRS was certainly in pretty good shape, but they were down in North Conway, and I was in Twin Mountain. And Mike called me up. He was director of state parks at the summit, and I packed my pack, and we went out on a rescue. And I ended up spending the night out that night. We went down through Jefferson Ravine. The Appalachian Mountain Club sent a team up through the Great Gulf, packing out the trail for us with snowshoes. We helicoptered the couple out from Jefferson Ravine. That was my first real modern search and rescue in my life. And after that was in probably 82, 83. And we went on more and more rescues. I enjoy the rescue community. Like Joe says, we're a very, very tight family, regardless of what team you're on. If you meet a rescue team person in the hills, you've got a friend. And I got involved with MRS. We started AVSAR, search and rescue is a big part of my life.
Awesome. It's incredible to hear to me from like you were talking about bending out crampons to kind of like that, not just wanting to learn how to climb like that led you to this whole sort of thing that you in your life. So I think a lot of people know, obviously, search and rescue. They're kind of aware that SAR teams exist and maybe at a base level what they do. But obviously you guys have a wide breadth of responsibilities. And I think Ty does a pretty good job of this, or a really good job, I should say. I got to give Ty credit in his book of explaining sort of this complex web of interactions between Fish and Game and the Forest Service and fire departments and local volunteers. But how exactly, and I guess more for the audience, can you explain how the search and rescue teams actually interact with Fish and Game and sort of the Forest Service in a typical search and rescue situation? Because I know it's a little interesting how SAR gets activated and how you actually act effectively as employees.
Well, the way I look at it, think of it as a general contractor. And Fish and Game is the general contractor, or Forest Service is the general contractor. And a general contractor, in order to build a house, they need an expert foundation company, they need an expert plumber, they need an expert electrician, and they've got to organize and bring all these trades together so that that house can be built. And it's important to find a good electrician, it's important to find a good plumber. So that's pretty much what the Fish and Game and the Forest Service job is to manage the overall job site and to pick the search and rescue team that is most applicable to the situation that they're up against. Like I mentioned a little earlier, MRS is a technical rescue team. We do high-angle technical rescue, and we train hard for that, and we're very good at what we do. All the teams that I work with across the country, for a volunteer rescue team, we're as good as any professional rescue team, except for maybe Yosemite Rescue. But if they've got a river rescue, well, they don't want us. They want the swiftwater rescue guys. If they've got to get, if they're searching for an Alzheimer victim or something like that, well, maybe they want Canine, or maybe they want Pemi Valley. And so they're trying to manage this whole thing and pick the team that is most applicable to the situation that is at hand.
So in the case of MRS, what's a typical situation that Fish and Game might reach out to MRS in a search and rescue? Like what type? I mean, you mentioned sort of basically high-angle rescues and imagining really in climbing situations, much like sort of the Albert Dow event. But where's some other situations where MRS might be seeked out as opposed to other volunteer SAR teams?
Well, full conditions. If we're above tree line and the conditions are really bad, you can't ask. You can't ask some of these other teams to be up in those conditions. MRS is very unique, like all these rescue teams. But as anybody knows the history of climbing, the White Mountain Valley has produced some world-class climbers, and they have traditionally produced those climbers. And we have some incredible climbers that are young, 30 years old, that are putting up world-class climbs right now, and they're guiding Mount Washington 50, 60 times a year. You just can't find that. There's one or two on AVSAR that are members of MRS. There's one or two on Lake Region that are members of MRS. One or two maybe on Pemi Valley, they've got a member that has climbed all 7 summits. That's 1, 2. You're going to call MRS because we got 50 of them. That's the only reason you're going to call MRS. It's not that they can't do the work or they don't have people. They don't have the number of people that we do. And they can assist us, but we're running the show. If same thing's going to happen with Swiftwater. We might have 1 or 2 from MRS that can help Swiftwater, but Swiftwater's going to run that show.
How do you feel about the current makeup of MRS? You kind of touched on this a little bit, but is it well-staffed? Is it generationally distributed in a way where you feel like we've got the future generation coming up? And how does it compare now to where maybe it was 10, 15 years ago? Was there ever a point where you felt like, we got to look at recruitment and the makeup of the team?
I think we're in the best shape that we've been since I've been involved in search and rescue. And I say this for all the rescue teams. These rescue teams are training hard. They're really good at what they do. The next generation is running the show. I know with my involvement with AVSAR, I've stepped back almost completely, and I'm just the old grandpa in the corner. And MRS is the same way. MRS is spending close to $30,000 a year just on training their members in avalanche, high-angle rescue, different mapping systems. It's unbelievable how much not only are we spending for education, but how much interest there is for these people to be taking these courses.
What's the word with drone technology, and maybe there's some other technology I'm not even aware of, but is there a lot of talk and discussion about how you integrate drones into what you do? Because I would assume that the advantage there is that you get eyes, you get a hasty search with a drone versus a human. That might be a better scenario, but I don't know if it's actually the technology's there yet.
Oh yeah, it's here and it's moving fast. We don't have a drone team. Each team has their own drone team. So AVSAR has a drone team. Pemi, you've got your, no, you don't. Upper Valley has a drone team. And that drone team just met with the National Guard Black Hawk team to train with them. What I see with the drone team is much of what I've seen with the way that the whole rescue world has gone. Let's say we have a rescue on Cannon. In the old days, we used to get a fish and game officer down at Boise Rock. He'd look up, he'd look for headlights, headlamps, and we'd be coming down from the top. Poor fish and game officer is off to one side. He's never rock climbed in his life. He doesn't know any of the climbs. And he sends us down and we're 150 feet to the left. With a drone, you can go up, find the victim precisely, light them, talk to them, and the people on the drone team are climbers.
This has happened already?
Already.
What went through your head when that happened? Like, were you blown away the first time you got an eye on that?
I am not a technological advanced guy, as you'll all know.
Well, you figured out the microphone pretty well.
But I can't handle the digital world very well, but I am absolutely inspired and jacked with the amount of the way the technology is going to change the search and rescue community.
Yeah, you get guys like Stomp. He's setting up all this crazy stuff here. He's involved with.
He's the guy.
I'll give you a lesson.
Yeah, it's going to change within the year, and our drone team is, once again, we're leading the nation in what we're doing with our drone technology here in the North Country. It's incredible.
That's awesome. It's kind of cool how this continues. It seems like to be sort of a place of innovation for climbing, and I mean, it looks like even with search and rescue going into the future. So I know you're mentioning sort of these 50 or so folks on MRS that are highly experienced, obviously, in a variety of situations. Is there a typical background of a person going to MRS? Are they typically a climber? Or are they a hiker? Or what's usually the background?
Typically, everybody on MRS are climbers, and we have a pretty high bar for the people that we accept onto the team. And you don't get on in any of these teams, really. You don't want to come on the team hoping that the team will train you to be a rescue person. You want to be solid in your craft. We have an application process at MRS, but really you're invited to fill out the application. And it's not because we're uppity, it's because we have to work together in the dark, and we have to have climbed together and know each other before you get on the team.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question, is you're going into such intense situations together, I mean, let alone climbing up the side of Mount Washington in the dark to get to people. Does it usually a lot of times end up being sort of from that community of climbers, that people that are just coming out sort of like, say, like Mount Washington Valley? And do you encourage people sort of maybe if they're an experienced climber to consider joining MRS or a search and rescue team? Or
what happens is you'll be at a climbing course, you'll be teaching a course, or you'll be at a training or something like that, and there'll be a bunch of students out there, and there'll be this one guy, and you go, he's good. And you take him over and you say, I think you ought to fill out an application.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was kind of curious how that works.
Nick, are you thinking of joining?
No, I don't think. I've not gotten past scrambling yet. I don't think I'm ready for rope climbing.
I am curious. So I've hired like hundreds of people over my career, and I was a recruiter. And sometimes I get excited about people, and then they don't work out. But have you ever had a scenario where you have this like amazing climber, and then all of a sudden they're out on calls, and just they're a head case, or they just like emotionally don't match up with the team, and you have to tell them like, sorry, this isn't for you?
Absolutely, that happens. It's rare that we have to say, I'm sorry, it's not for you. When you get involved in search and rescue, of course, it's very, very glamorous. It is. It's really cool that we can pull this stuff off. And you're going to see injured people, and you're going to see blood, and you're going to see just a real. It's possible you can see a shit show. It's possible you're going to see a deceased person, but you won't understand what it's like until you've done that, and you've had to take that deceased person and put them in a litter. And many times that's not what they signed up for. They thought it was going to be cool, but it's not cool. So we've never really had to fire anybody. Usually they step back on their own. And there's never any bad feeling.
Well, Paul, we want to thank you kind of for coming on and giving us some more insights into what it's like sort of on MRS and being a president. And kind of lastly, is there a good way to support MRS, or maybe kind of, I guess, support the team and kind of support you and your mission?
Support the New Hampshire Outdoor Council. The New Hampshire Outdoor Council in some ways was formed because we would go on these rescues, and there'd be somebody from AVSAR there, and the person's in the litter, and he sees the AVSAR thing on the guy's shoulder, and he gives a donation to AVSAR. Well, he didn't realize that there was Pemi Valley, Lake Region, all these other agencies that were out there, and he just didn't know. By giving your money to the NHOC, they distribute the money to all the rescue teams as they need it. And we can't exist on our own donations. We just couldn't do it. We need the NHOC to manage this. And they do a tremendous job. And we're so grateful to have them oversee the entire search and rescue community.
Awesome. Well, we're grateful that we were able to spend some time with you and Joe and Ty and the rest of the guests here, and we appreciate all that you do. And that question I asked about, like, how is MRS in the future, in your view of it? Like, it sounds like they're in a great place, and it sounds like you did a lot of work to set them up to get there. So we thank you so much for all that you do. We thank all of the partners and all of the other members of Search and Rescue that go out there and volunteer. Even you, Stomp. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Yes.
But thank you so much,
Yeah,
Paul,
thank
for
you,
joining
Paul.
us.
Appreciate
Let's give him a big hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, what a show.
What's next?
That was fun.
What's
so
next?
We're sort of pushing time here, so I think we're going to be moving on to raffles in a moment. So I think what we'll do is transition over to raffle time, and we'll play some outro music.
That's Phil, our right? man, Philip, I believe.
Yeah. So it's been fun hanging with you two guys. It's been a while.
You going to come back eventually? So once you stop being busy, are you going to come back and be a co-host?
Yeah, I think
will?
so.
What do you
when the time is right.
All right, yeah, because I hear like a lot of feedback. Everyone's like, I want Stomp. Mike and Nick are cool, but like Stomp is the man. So
it's his dulcet tones.
Dulcet tones, yeah.
The dulcet
sure.
tones.
No, I would love to, but got a little bit on my plate at the moment.
You're not that busy, are you?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for everyone coming out. I can't believe that people came out to listen to this. Us idiots. So.
And we'll see you guys next year, I guess.
Awesome. So,
yes.
I don't know where Phil is, but I think he's going to take it over. Do you need a mic, or you have a mic?
You got your own mic.
Do you want to sing a duet first before we do the raffle? I don't know. I got you, babe.
You might want to cut the mic.
Have to do. All right. Yeah, Marlene is going to do karaoke, right? Yeah. What's that?
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at slasherpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are?
Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.